The past couple of months, my wife's been complaining about her cats. She's been claiming that the cats wake her up constantly and she's frustrated every night and that she has to get up and open the door for the cats. Or the cats keep making noises. Or the cats keep jumping on her. It got to the point where she started saying that she wants me to get rid of them. I told her that I've never seen or heard any of this, but she claims that I sleep through it all. She kept telling me that she was getting less and less sleep and kept acting aggressive, blaming lack of sleep from the cats and that if I didn't get rid of them, then she'd leave me. I legitimately started considering giving my cats away to my sister until I noticed something. One morning, she claimed that she had gotten up multiple times throughout the night to help the cats. She listed a bunch of times. I thought it was weird because I had been up until 4 in the morning and she claimed that she got up at 1 in the morning to open the door for them and a few times around 3 in the morning because they were meowing and jumping on her. I was in the bedroom the entire time while she slept and I know none of that happened. Things weren't adding up, so I decided to run a test. I waited until she was going to bed and then I let the cats out of the bedroom, lowered my phone's brightness, and faked going to sleep. I just laid there in bed the entire night, bored, but I definitely did not fall asleep. I made sure to make the timestamps every 30 minutes on my phone through Discord just to be sure. I marked down every noise that my cats made. One cat had jumped down from something and made a little sound at 3 in the morning, and one ate food relatively quietly by the bedroom door around 5 in the morning. Other than that, nothing happened. Sure enough, my wife slept from 11 p.m. until 9 in the morning, and then that morning she claimed that she had woken up at least 7 times to open the doors for the cats' noises and cats jumping on her. At this point, I was pissed because she was clearly lying to me. I was exhausted and fed up with the lie, so I bluntly called her out on it. I told her, "That's funny, I stayed up all night to monitor the cats and they weren't even in the room last night. I have timestamps and everything. So you've been lying to me and trying to convince me to get rid of my cats? Why?" She just sat there quietly shaking and looking pissed, then got up and left without answering. She came back hours later and ignored me whenever I talked, and when I asked how I'm the bad guy in this situation, she finally said that I was treating her like a child by lying about sleeping and staying up all night just to see if she was lying or not, and that making timestamps and everything as if I was an investigator was going too far and makes me an obsessive asshole. I only did it because she was threatening to make me get rid of my cats or she'd leave me, and her claims didn't add up. Am I the asshole for fake sleeping all night to see if my wife is lying? Part 2. I faked being asleep all night to see if my wife was lying. My wife has been Baker acted. She didn't hurt herself, just said something concerning in public. I got a call from the hospital this morning asking me to head over for some family therapy. Apparently, she finally wanted to talk. I'll be honest, I'm pretty pissed at the reason why she's been so hateful towards my cats. It's absolutely asinine. It's nothing that anyone had suggested. She's not cheating. She's not sick physically or mentally. She's not bored of the relationship and looking for an out. According to her, one of the cats stepped on her laptop and ruined a story that she was writing. She's hated both cats ever since. I mean, that sucks, but it's not worth trying to emotionally blackmail me into getting rid of them. I asked her why she didn't just tell me the truth and why she'd been lying and refused to talk about it when I asked. Her answer was, because you wouldn't have gotten rid of them otherwise, and explained that when she saw I wasn't willing to abandon them for her, she took offense and made it a goal to have me pick her over them. Sickening. Don't know why she actually admitted to it all. The woman with us asked me how I felt about it all, and I just told the truth. I told her it was a nice run, but I'm probably going to want a divorce. I was asked why, and I told them. I've seen a new hateful, malicious side of her that I want nothing to do with. She was so set on getting rid of the cats over a fan fiction being ruined that she manipulated her husband. My wife started shouting at me that I've betrayed her and that I'm scum for choosing animals over her. At least cats don't give ultimatums like she gave. It sucks that she's been Baker acted and all, I guess, but it's for the best right now. She'll have time to process it all in a safe environment and hopefully come to terms with it. Bad husband, I know. I'm almost sure that I'm going for a divorce. I'm very worried about having her in the same house with my cats. I want my cats safe. I don't want to worry about them being harmed or disappearing. Screw that.
Am I the a-hole for not wanting to live with a newborn? In May, my 23 male brother Louis, 16 male, shocked us all by telling us that his girlfriend, 16 female, was pregnant. Our parents were far from supportive. After many arguments, my mother made him leave and our father refused to take him in. Since last August, he has lived with me and my housemate, Alex, 23 male. He doesn't pay rent, but will pay me for groceries. In January, the baby was born. My nephew lives primarily with his mother, who Louis sees every day after school, and on the weekends he comes to my flat. This was not something Louis ever asked me about. He just turned up with a baby, and it has been a nightmare. He cries all throughout the night, keeping me and Alex up. He smells rancid and spits. He causes more washing up than we've ever had to do before, and there are no benefits to having him in the house. After a month, I decided that this has to stop. Louis will have to just spend a few nights a week at his girlfriend's house to spend time with his son, but he can't keep bringing him to mine. He was unhappy, but reluctantly agreed. Despite this weekend he turned up with a baby. Again. He attempted to smuggle him unnoticed, but his crying alerted us to his presence. Louis told me that his girlfriend had refused to agree with my idea and had forced him to take the baby home with him. When he came back from the baby's mother's on Monday, Alex and I told him in no uncertain terms that if he brought the baby here again, he would no longer be welcome. We both work shifts, so sometimes we don't get back until 4 or 5 in the morning, and we need to sleep. At first, Louis refused to respect this and argued, but he has since reluctantly agreed and told his girlfriend that their son is unwelcome here. His girlfriend wasn't happy with us and is taking it out on him. I know that they are young, exhausted, and stressed all the time, so I feel bad for making Louis's life even harder. But his burden quickly became our burden too, and that was not something I nor my housemate agreed to. I feel like if we had had a chance to come to an agreement before the baby actually arrived, maybe this would have been easier. But Louis never spoke to me about it. Am I the a-hole? Edited to Ed. We never thought that him living here would be a long-term solution. His girlfriend's father tried to set them up with the flats before the due date, but that fell through. We tried speaking with our mother about charging him rent, but she refused to let him move back in.
Story time about how I got my manager fired because I didn't like him. Yeah, this might make me a terrible person, but a girl's gotta do what a girl's gotta do. Disclaimer, this is not my story time, was sending me on Instagram. I started working as a wedding planner in a company about 6 months ago. And yes, I've always been very ambitious, but I definitely took it too far this time. In the company, there were other wedding planners as well, and we were all managed by the same person. Let's call him Tom. Tom was an okay manager, but here's the thing. When I met him, I hated him right away. He was lazy and incompetent, and I knew that I could do his job 10 times better. Then I hated him even more when I found out how much money he earned. He was making over $200,000 a year. After a week of working there, I realized what he was doing. He would tell all of the wedding planners to do things throughout the day that added up to being his actual job. But none of us realized it because he was telling all of us individually without the others knowing. But I'm really observant and I realized it right away. I started watching him all the time. He would come into the office really late, would make himself coffee, and practically eat an entire box of cereal at his desk. Once he was finished with that, he would email us our tasks for the day, which was the stuff that he needed to do. Then he would play video games for 5 hours. When I realized he was palming off all his work on the other people, I decided to start documenting all of his laziness. So like I said in part 1, he would spend his morning eating an entire box of cereal. Then he would send emails out telling us what to do for the day, which was everything he had to do for the day. Then for about 5 hours, he would play video games on his laptop. And how did I know this? Every 15 minutes or so, he would go get a snack. So I would run into his office and take a picture of his laptop. He didn't even bother to fake it. You might wonder why no one else noticed. My desk was the closest one to his office. Also, our boss worked remotely and would only come into the office about once a week. And when she would come into the office, he would act completely different. So after documenting all of his activities for about a month, I decided to go to the boss and show her everything. I kept every single text message he ever sent me of him asking me to do something for him. I had all the emails he'd ever sent us. I had videos of him eating a full box of cereal at his desk for about 2 hours. And I had all the pictures I took of his laptop while he was playing video games. And all of it was time-stamped. I asked my boss if we could jump on a call and she said yes. By the way, my boss is amazing. She's a total boss lady and doesn't take crap from anyone, so I knew that she would fire him right away. When we got on the phone, I asked her to check her email and she looked at all the evidence. Then she told me, wow, I'm actually not surprised. I told her that if she gave me the job, I would be extremely productive and get us more clients. She thanked me and called the manager right away. And guess what? The following day, he was not there. My boss called me and thanked me for giving her all the evidence. But I didn't stop there. I asked her if she could consider me for his job and she told me that she would think about it. So I took it a step further. Emailed her the list of new clients that I had brought in and it did the trick. She emailed me back saying that she would give me a chance. That meant that I was now going to get $200,000 a year and that I didn't have to deal with bridezillas anymore. Since I became manager, I've doubled our client list and increased revenue by 12%. I also convinced my boss to give everyone a bonus. I even redecorated the entire office, making it more functional, and everybody loves the new space. I also got myself a fancy 2-bedroom apartment, which has a pool and a sauna, a doorman, and I get massages every single week. And I got myself a very new nice car. I'm currently planning a girls trip for me and my friends to go to Greece. I would have never been able to do all of this had I not gotten that job. So if you're wondering if I feel guilty about getting my manager fired, no, I don't. There's nothing more disgusting than a lazy man. I did check his Instagram after sending this story time. He's gained about 40 pounds and plays video games for a living. Not sure how that works, but good for me. Bye.
Am I the asshole for calling my friend an idiot for wanting a maternity test? My friend Dan recently found out he might be a father. I say might because the girl he's been having an on and off relationship with, Cara, is pregnant. She offered to get a paternity test once the baby's born and doesn't expect any kind of support until they find out if the baby's his. He's on board with that and appreciates that she's not pushing him into fatherhood if the baby isn't his. The issue is that he says he wants to get a maternity test to see if the baby is hers. Cara is visibly pregnant. We know she's pregnant because she did a maternity photo shoot and posted it on social media. We've also seen her in person. We've both seen her in person and she's definitely pregnant. However, Dan believes that the baby might not be hers. I tried to explain to him that that's not how biology works, and unless she got an embryo implanted, that's definitely the mother. And also, she works as a waitress. I doubt she has the money to afford that. It's ridiculous to think she'd do all that just to trap a guy who's unemployed and living with his parents at 32. Plus, he's never donated sperm. He's still genuinely convinced there's a possibility even after talking to me, family, and friends. I ended up calling him a senseless idiot. Now him and some friends are saying I'm insensitive. Am I the asshole for telling my son I was disappointed after he and his wife lied about my grandson's birthday? My son, 23, and his wife just had a baby boy. When my daughter-in-law was pregnant, I suggested that I host a welcoming party for my grandson right after she got discharged from the hospital. I've made arrangements and even emptied a room for them to stay in, but for some reason she was against it. She said she'd rather spend the first few weeks at home with her newborn. Not only that, but she said no to the welcoming party. My husband and I talked to my son and he said we'll see. But just a couple days ago, we found out that my daughter-in-law gave birth 2 weeks ago and no one knew about it. My nephew told me and I immediately called my son and he confirmed it. He and his wife lied, then hid the date of birth from the family. I told him this was not acceptable, lying just because they didn't want a welcoming party and love and support being given from family. I told him I was disappointed because for one, he ruined our welcoming for our grandbaby, and also I invited family members and they're all rightfully disappointed as well. He said it was because I kept pushing and making his wife uncomfortable. We argued and he said I was ruining the joy for his newborn. Now he's mad at my nephew for tattling.
Am I the a-hole for getting offended at my husband's suggestion that I only take 2 weeks of maternity leave? I, 25 female, am currently 25 weeks pregnant with my husband, 34 male, and I's first child. We have been together for 5 years, married for almost 2. Baby is growing on track. We've already painted a nursery, and my mother-in-law is excitedly planning the baby shower. I have a full-time office job while he has been working from home since the first lockdown. We were talking about our parental leaves, and we agreed that we wouldn't take it simultaneously. We were good until I said, "Do you want to do 2 weeks first, then I do mine, then you do 6 weeks after?" I just stood silently staring at him for 5 minutes. I told him I think he's being ignorant and selfish. He said, "What? I don't know how long you need to recover." I don't even know why we're still talking about this. He works for an international company where they get 3 months paid paternity leave. Meanwhile, I work for a small business which only offers 6 to 8 weeks of unpaid maternity leave. He has been anticipating his paternity leave since I got pregnant because he sees it as an opportunity to seriously start looking for another job. He has been with the company for 9 years and has been feeling burnt out. Lately, his frustrations have been compounded by his new manager being difficult. I've been very supportive of his goal of finding a job where he can be fulfilled and appreciated, as I can sense that he's not happy at his job anymore. He also said that his current company will be considering him for a better position once he gets back from his paternity leave, so that gets him kind of excited. We have a 6-figure income combined. I paid a mortgage while he takes care of the other bills. We have money in the bank, stocks, cars paid off. I don't think my maternity leave being unpaid is an issue because my savings could cover the 2 months that I wouldn't get a paycheck. I didn't talk to him after his remark. He went to play video games on his computer while I folded his clothes. I slept on the couch and still have not talked to him at breakfast. He tried talking to me as I was about to leave for work, but I just noped out of the house. I am upset that he doesn't think that I deserve to get some downtime after giving birth to recover and spend time with our kid. I feel like he thinks growing an entire human being inside your body and then having to push that baby out is not a big deal. Maybe because I never complain about anything. I do 90% of the chores around the house, even carrying laundry from our bedroom at the top floor down to the basement to get them washed, then back up the stairs to get them folded and put away. I feel like my in-laws are more concerned about my well-being than he is. My father-in-law even bought us a litter robot, so I won't have to clean after our cats. My family lives a few continents away, so I don't have a huge support system here. Am I the a-hole for being angry with my husband and mother-in-law for choosing the name for our daughter? I, 28 female, and my husband, 28 male, are expecting our first child together. Our daughter's due date is approaching, and I'm feeling very nervous and anxious. My husband and I decided on naming our daughter Anne after my grandmother. I spent most of my childhood and teen years with my grandparents, I was extremely close with my grandmother and was devastated when she passed away in 2016 from lung cancer. We live close to my grandfather and visit him on a daily basis, and it means so much to my grandfather that we are naming our daughter Anne. My mother-in-law and I are cordial when we get together. My husband is her only child, and she feels like since I stepped into his life, their relationship changed. He is still very close with her, but he doesn't visit often because of the pregnancy. Mother-in-law invited us over for a small dinner party, and I thought it was going to be a pleasant evening. When we sat down for dinner, my mother-in-law turns to me and says, "Your husband and I spoke this past week, and he told me that you were going to be changing her name to be after me." I could feel my anxiety level rising and said, "No, we are still planning on keeping her name to be Anne, right?" I gave my husband a look and he doesn't say anything. My mother-in-law makes a face and says, "Well, it seems like husband is not on board with her name." I finished eating and told husband that we were leaving. We get into the car and husband tries to apologize. I told him that I was angry with him for not discussing with me and even more upset with mother-in-law. Mother-in-law sent me a few text messages regarding my behavior that evening and hopes I will change my mind. Am I the a-hole for being angry with my husband and mother-in-law for choosing the name for our daughter?
Am I the asshole for refusing to go with my 16-year-old daughter to her father's funeral? My ex-husband passed away 2 days ago at the age of 36. My daughter begged that I go with her to the funeral because she doesn't know anyone there and needs my support and guidance. I refused because I didn't feel comfortable, and then seeing my former in-laws, it's just not worth the pain. Plus her grandparents and her younger uncle that she adores so much will be there, so that's good enough. I also offered to have my brother drive her there and return her home, but she refused and kept begging that I go with her. I told her no and that I have my reasons, and that's it. She unloaded on me yesterday, calling me bitter and selfish. She said that my hatred for her dad is still there and it's disgusting. I was really hurt and had an argument with her, but didn't punish her for what she said. I know she is grieving and is processing her father's passing. I just cut the argument and told her to go upstairs, and she went inside her room and refused to come out for lunch and dinner. My boyfriend tried to stay with her and get her to eat, but she refused. He told me this is obviously something my daughter's not dealing with properly and suggested I go to the funeral. He then said if I don't go, there will most likely be lasting resentment from my daughter. So, am I the asshole? Am I the asshole for punishing my son for throwing away my husband's Bible? My husband, 37, and my son, 16, fight a lot. I try to intervene, but my husband asked me to stay out of it while he works it out with my son. Each time they fight or argue, my husband comes up with a new nickname to call my son till they fight again or till my son apologizes. Names like dipstick, stone cold embarrassment, ass clown, imbecile, dweeb, etc. Since their last fight, my husband's calling him ass clown. My son spoke up about how annoying it was and threatened my husband that if he doesn't stop, he'll throw away something of his. Days ago, my son had friends over while I was out, and my husband called him ass clown in front of all of them. My husband later called me panicking, saying my son took his Bible after their fight and refused to give it back. I went home and asked my son what happened, and he said that my husband embarrassed him by calling him that in front of his friends. I said I talked to my husband about it later and asked him to give the Bible back. He said he threw it out, and I said that was offensive to his stepdad and his religion. I punished him and took his allowance for the rest of the month. He argued that this was unfair because my husband started it. My husband promised this will all stop if my husband gets properly punished for what he did. My son got my ex-mother-in-law involved, and she tried to come to the house and yell at me.
Am I wrong for not wanting to make my friend a wedding dress for the cost of materials? So I have a degree in fashion, which some people think means I can be their personal seamstress. I'm used to this problem and I don't mind helping out, but I never work for free. My pregnant friend recently reached out to me and asked me if I could make her wedding dress and sent me a picture of the idea she had in mind. It isn't exactly a simple dress, but it's also not the most complex I've ever done either. I told her I could for sure do this for her and it would cost around 600 pounds. She was shocked at this and told me that she thought I'd do it for free and just pay for the materials. Why would she assume that? I pointed out how many hours this would take me to do and all the hand embroidery needed. Then I explained I was doing this for a quarter of the price I charge other people because she's my friend. At this point, she started to get very upset, telling me I have no idea how much stress she's under with the wedding and the fact she's pregnant and how money is tight and how this should be my wedding gift to her and how great it looked in my portfolio. I don't think I'm being unreasonable to want some money for this, but other friends are telling me it's horrible how I'm wanting to charge her for this and it's not like I'm a high-end bridal shop. So, am I being unreasonable? No, your friends suck. Storytime about how I scam my followers out of $20,000. Disclaimer, this is not my storytime. I repeat, this is not my storytime. I started out as an influencer on Instagram a few years ago. A few of my posts went viral, and after a month, I had 1 million followers. Suddenly, I had so many brands reaching out to me. Some of the brands I had never heard of, so I didn't really answer back. But I did start working with some brands that I did know. The only problem was that they would only pay me about $70 to $100 per post. By the way, I had a lot of debt at the time, so only making that much was not working for me. I decided to ask for more money, but some of the brands just wouldn't pay it. So by the end of the first month, I had only made about $500. That was not enough to pay my rent, and I was not about to get a day job. I had 1 million followers on Instagram. I was a glorified influencer. So instead, I started reaching out to some of these brands that I had never heard of before. One of them was offering me $5,000 to post a link on my story for 3 days. Of course, I accepted. Part of me thought that it was a scam, but I didn't care at the time. I needed the money. After 3 days of posting the link, they paid me the $5,000. I was able to pay my rent, my car insurance, and my phone bill. But here's the thing. I started getting a bunch of DMs from my followers who were super angry. They were calling me a scammer and a bunch of other names. So I decided to do some investigating, and I found out that the whole thing was a scam. Part two of how I scammed my followers out of $20,000. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I was sending me an Instagram. When I started seeing all the angry messages from my followers, I asked them what was wrong. One girl sent me screenshots of all the stuff that she had bought with the link that I posted. She told me that she Googled the company and that it was a scam. So I decided not to reply back to her. I wrote to the company and told them that I was getting a lot of hate messages. But of course, the company ghosted me. I saw 5 other messages and they were all basically saying the same thing. That the website was a total scam and that they had purchased stuff off of it. But here's the thing. For the first time, I had money. So I decided to just ignore it, which I know is a bad thing. But it's also their fault for not doing their research. But I did learn my lesson. After that, I Googled every single company that ever reached out to me. But here's where it gets worse. 2 weeks later, I get another $5,000 check from the same company. But I was so happy. I deposited that check really fast. So here's what I had to do. I blocked every single person who told me that the website was a scam. And then I just tried to forget about it. I also had to delete all the hate comments. And a few weeks after that, I get another $5,000 check. I had $15,000 in the bank. Part three of how I scam my followers out of $20,000. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I was sending me an Instagram. I had made $15,000 from all of the scams. But it didn't stop there. A few weeks later, I got another $5,000 check. So in total, I had $20,000. This was the most money I'd ever had in my life, and I was not about to send it back. But I was still getting a lot of hate on Instagram. I ended up blocking over 500 people. And then finally, the company reached out to me. I told them my followers were saying that they were scamming them, but the company made up some excuse saying that the shipments had been delayed and that my followers would receive all their purchases. Then they offered me another $5,000 to post a different link. And guess what? Of course I accepted. They offered me $7,000 this time. I knew very well that this was probably another scam, but I still accepted. A few days later, I posted the link, but the payment never came. I waited a few weeks before contacting the company, and they ghosted me. I wrote to them every single day, but I never got the $7,000. So guess what? I also got scammed too. It's been 2 years since that happened, and I don't feel bad about it. I now make a lot more money than $20,000, but we all start somewhere. Part of me does feel guilty for scamming everyone, so sometimes I think about possibly paying them back. And don't start trying to guess in the comments who I am. You will never guess. Or maybe you will. Whatever, I'm $20,000 richer. Bye.